Admiral Ara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars through the crystal windows. Her ship was beautiful. It looked like a giant piece of blue glass that could cut through space itself. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years with ships like this one. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of the engines. Her crew worked at their stations, their blue skin glowing slightly in the dim light. Everything was perfect. Everything was as it should be. "Admiral," called her communications officer, "we have received new orders from High Command." Ara turned to face the young officer. "What does the Empire require?" "We are to investigate energy readings from Sector 7 Alpha. There appears to be a new species that has discovered faster-than-light travel." Ara felt slightly annoyed. Another primitive species that needed to be brought into the Empire. It was always the same. They would either join willingly or be forced to join. The Empire had done this dance with hundreds of species. "What do we know about them?" she asked. The officer checked his screen. "They call themselves humans. They live on a small blue planet called Earth. Our long-range sensors show they have very basic technology. Their ships appear to be made of simple metal and powered by fusion engines." Ara almost smiled. Fusion engines were what her people had used thousands of years ago. These humans were clearly far behind technology. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. "Unknown, Admiral, but the energy signatures are very weak. Their ships seem to be designed more for carrying cargo than fighting." This made sense to Ara. Most new species focused on trade and exploration when they first reached space. Fighting came later, usually when they met the Empire. "Very well," she said. "Signal High Command that we will handle this personally." Within a few hours, Ara received her official orders. She was to take 3 of the Empire's finest cruisers to this Earth and make first contact. The orders were simple: offer the humans a chance to join the Empire peacefully. If they refused, show them the power of technology until they changed their minds. High Command seemed to think this would be easy. The mission was marked as a training exercise for new officers. Ara felt slightly insulted that they thought her skills were only needed for training missions. She looked at the mission files again. The humans had only had faster-than-light travel for a few years. Their ships were large but slow. They seemed to favor building big, heavy vessels instead of the sleek, fast ships that made sense for space travel. "Prepare for jump," Ara ordered. "We leave for the Sol system immediately." Her 3 ships were some of the most advanced in the Empire. Each one was shaped like a crystal blade, about 2 kilometers long. They could travel faster than almost anything else in space. Their weapons could destroy entire cities. Their shields could stop almost any attack. As they jumped through space toward Earth, Ara thought about how this mission would go. First, she would appear in their system with her 3 beautiful ships. The humans would be amazed and scared by the advanced technology. Then she would give them the standard message about joining the Empire. They would probably ask for time to think about it. Then they would realize they had no choice and agree to join. It was always the same pattern. Every species went through the same stages: fear, then understanding, then acceptance. The Empire had perfected this process long ago. "Admiral," her science officer called, "we are receiving more detailed scans of the human system." "What do you see?" "Their ships are even stranger than we thought. They are very large, but they seem to be built like fortresses. Thick armor, many weapon ports, but the weapons appear to be very old-fashioned." Ara was curious now. Old-fashioned how? "They seem to use projectile weapons, like throwing rocks instead of energy beams. Very primitive." This was almost funny to Ara. Projectile weapons had not been used by advanced species for thousands of years. Energy weapons were much more effective. These humans really were behind the times. "How large are their ships exactly?" she asked. The science officer looked confused for a moment. "The readings are unusual, Admiral. Some of their vessels appear to be quite large, several kilometers in length. Ara nodded. Big, slow, heavily armored ships with primitive weapons. It was exactly what she expected from a species that had just learned to travel between stars. They were probably scared of space and built their ships like bunkers to feel safe. Estimated travel time to Earth, she asked. 12 hours, Admiral. Good. Have all officers review the first contact protocols. This should be a simple mission, but I want everything done correctly. As her small fleet traveled through space toward the human home world, Ara felt confident. She had done this many times before. In 12 hours, the Empire would have a new member species. The humans would learn their place in the galaxy. She had no way of knowing that everything she thought she knew about space warfare was about to change. She had no idea that the primitive humans had spent their short time in space building something that would make her beautiful crystal ships look like toys. The humans had taken their old ideas about fighting on their planet's oceans and made them work in space. They had built ships that were not just vessels but floating cities. They had created weapons that could crack planets and armor that could stop anything. But Admiral Ara knew none of this as her fleet approached the Sol system. She was thinking about her next promotion, and hopping this easy mission would be finished quickly. The stars ahead looked peaceful and quiet. Soon, she would learn that looks could be very deceiving. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Ara watched as her sensors began mapping the human home system. What she saw made her frown slightly. "Science officer, confirm these readings," she ordered. "Admiral, I show at least 50 large vessels in this system. Most are near the outer planets. They are much larger than our initial estimates suggested." Ara studied the display. The human ships did look bigger than expected. Some appeared to be 5 or 6 kilometers long, but they still looked clumsy and primitive compared to her elegant crystal ships. "Send the standard first contact message," she commanded. Her communications officer nodded and opened a channel to Earth. "Unknown species of the Sol system, you are now in contact with the Galactic Empire. You have achieved faster-than-light travel and must now choose your future. Join our empire peacefully and enjoy the benefits of our advanced civilization, or face the consequences of resistance. You have 48 standard hours to respond." The reply came faster than Ara expected. "Greetings, Admiral Ara of the Empire. This is Admiral Sarah of the United Earth Space Forces. We appreciate your message and your offer. However, before we make such an important decision, we would like to see a demonstration of your naval capabilities. We believe it is only fair that both sides understand each other's strength before making agreements." Ara was surprised. Most species either accepted immediately out of fear or rejected the offer out of pride. She had never heard of a species asking for a military demonstration before making their choice. "A demonstration," she said to her bridge crew. "How unusual." Her tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, perhaps they want to see our power so they can understand the wisdom of joining peacefully." This made sense to Ara. Show them what ships could do, and they would realize resistance was pointless. "Very well," she replied to the human admiral. "We will provide a demonstration of Imperial naval capabilities. Where would you like this to take place?" "We suggest near Jupiter. We have several patrol vessels in that area that can observe your demonstration. We will also show you our own capabilities, so you can better understand what Earth can offer the Empire." Ara felt amused. What could these primitive humans possibly show her that would be impressive? Their fusion-powered metal ships against her crystal vessels that could bend space itself. "Agreed," she transmitted. "We will meet your patrol vessels near Jupiter in 6 hours." As her small fleet traveled toward the gas giant, Ara felt confident. This was turning out to be more interesting than expected, but the outcome would be the same. After seeing technology in action, the humans would join the Empire gladly. "Admiral," her sensor officer called out. "I am detecting the human patrol vessels near Jupiter." "How many ships?" "I count. This cannot be right." "What is the problem?" Ara asked. "I show 3 human vessels, but the size readings must be wrong. The computer says the largest ship is over 8 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide." Ara moved to the sensor station. The readings did show 3 massive objects, but surely there was an error. Ships that large would be too slow and clumsy to be effective in combat. "Perhaps their ships are mostly empty space," she suggested. "Cargo vessels converted for military use." As they got closer, the human ships became visible on the main screen. Ara stared in confusion. The human vessels were indeed enormous. They looked like floating metal cities, covered in gun turrets and antenna arrays. The largest ship had sections that appeared to be rotating, suggesting artificial gravity systems. "Admiral," came a transmission from the lead human ship. "This is Admiral Sarah aboard the UES Leviathan. Welcome to our system. Are you ready to begin the demonstration?" "We are ready," Ara replied, though she was beginning to feel less certain about this situation. "Excellent, please observe." Suddenly, Ara's sensors went wild. The human ships were powering up weapons systems, and the energy readings were far higher than anything she expected from primitive technology. "Admiral," her tactical officer said in a worried voice, "those energy signatures, they are much stronger than our initial scans indicated." The largest human ship, the Leviathan, began to turn. As it moved, Ara could see that it was not clumsy at all. For something so massive, it moved with surprising grace. The rotation revealed row after row of weapon ports along its hull. "Attention vessels," Admiral's voice came over the radio. "Please observe our standard point defense demonstration." A small asteroid about 1 kilometer away suddenly vanished in a cloud of debris. Ara had not even seen the weapon's fire. Her sensors showed that hundreds of projectiles had hit the asteroid simultaneously, turning it to dust in less than a second. "What was that?" she whispered. Her science officer was checking his instruments frantically. "Admiral, their point defense system fired over 2,000 projectiles in 1 second. The targeting accuracy was perfect. Every shot hit the target." "Impossible. No projectile weapon system can be that fast or accurate." "The readings are clear, Admiral, and that was just their point defense system. I am detecting much larger weapon ports on their ships." Admiral's voice came over the radio again. "Now please observe our main battery test." This time Ara saw the weapon fire. A massive bolt of energy, larger than her entire ship, shot out from the Leviathan and struck a distant asteroid. The asteroid did not just break apart. It simply ceased to exist, completely vaporized. "Admiral," her tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "that single shot had more power than our entire fleet's main weapons combined." Ara felt something she had never experienced before during a first contact mission: fear. "Admiral," she transmitted, "your weapons are impressive. Perhaps we should discuss terms of alliance rather than surrender." The human admiral's reply was polite but firm. "Admiral Ara, I should mention that these are merely patrol vessels from our Outer System Defense Force. They are not our main battle fleet. Also, I hope you understand that Earth has no intention of surrendering to anyone. However, we are always interested in peaceful relationships with other civilizations." Ara looked at her crew. Their blue faces had turned pale. If these were just patrol ships, what did the humans' actual warships look like? "Perhaps," she said carefully, "we should contact our respective governments to discuss this situation further." "An excellent idea," Admiral agreed. "We look forward to a long and peaceful relationship with the Empire." As Ara prepared her report for High Command, she wondered how she would explain what she had seen. The Empire had just encountered something it had never faced before, a species that was stronger than they were. Admiral Ara could not sleep. She had been staring at the sensor data from the demonstration for hours, and nothing made sense. The human ships were impossible. They were too large, too powerful, and too advanced for a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel a few years ago. "Admiral," her communications officer called. "Admiral is requesting permission to come aboard for a face-to-face meeting." Ara considered this. Meeting in person was unusual during first contact, but everything about this situation was unusual. Grant permission. Have her shuttle escorted to Docking Bay 2. An hour later, Admiral Sarah stood on the bridge of Ara's flagship. The human was smaller than expected, wearing a simple blue uniform. She looked around the crystal bridge with obvious interest. "Your ship is beautiful," Admiral said. "Very elegant design. We could learn a lot from your engineering." Ara was confused by this comment. The humans had just demonstrated weapons that could destroy her ship easily, but they seemed impressed by technology. "Admiral, I must ask directly, how did your species develop such advanced weapons so quickly?" Admiral smiled. "I think there has been a misunderstanding. What you saw today were not advanced weapons by our standards. The Leviathan and her sister ships are patrol vessels. We use them to guard the outer edges of our system against asteroids and small threats." Patrol vessels. Ara felt her stomach drop. Those ships had more firepower than our best cruisers. "Yes, but you have to understand human naval philosophy. We come from a planet that is mostly water. For thousands of years, we fought battles on oceans with large ships that could operate independently for months. When we reached space, we simply applied the same thinking." Admiral walked over to the main display and gestured at the image of her ship. "The Leviathan is designed to patrol this entire star system alone if necessary. She carries her own manufacturing facilities, repair shops, food production, and even recreational areas for the crew. She can build her own ammunition and spare parts." Ara stared at the human admiral. "Your patrol ship can build its own parts." "Of course. Human warships are designed to be completely independent. We learned long ago that supply lines can be cut in war, so we build ships that do not need supply lines." This was a completely different approach to space warfare than anything in military thinking. Empire ships were fast and elegant, but they needed regular stops at bases for supplies and repairs. "Admiral, if these are your patrol ships, what do your actual warships look like?" The human admiral looked slightly embarrassed. "Well, that is a bit awkward. Our main battle fleet is currently in dry dock for routine maintenance. We are upgrading their weapons systems and installing new armor. Otherwise, I would have invited you to see them as well." Ara felt dizzy. The humans had even larger ships that they considered their real navy. "How large are these main battleships?" "Our current Dreadnought-class vessels are about 15 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide, but we are working on a new class that will be much larger. The shipbuilders are very excited about the engineering challenges of deep space warfare." 15 kilometers long. Ara's flagship was only 2 kilometers long and was considered one of the largest ships in the Empire fleet. "Admiral, how many of these dreadnoughts do you have?" "Currently, about 200 in active service, with another 100 in various stages of construction, but those numbers will increase rapidly. Earth's shipyards are working at full capacity." 200 dreadnoughts, each one larger than anything the Empire had ever built. Ara realized that her 3-ship patrol fleet was not just, they were completely insignificant. "There is something else you should know," Admiral continued. "What you see here in the Sol system is just our home fleet. We have established colonies in 12 other star systems, and each one has its own defense fleet." 12 systems, Ara whispered. "Yes, we found that spreading out reduces the risk if something happens to Earth. Each colony system has at least 50 major warships for defense, plus patrol vessels and support ships." Ara did quick math in her head. If each system had 50 major warships, and there were 12 systems plus the home fleet, the humans had over 1,000 large warships. The Empire had perhaps 300 major vessels spread across their entire territory. Admiral, Ara said carefully, when your species first achieved faster-than-light travel, what was your priority? Security, the human replied immediately. We knew that space might contain hostile species. Our governments decided that we needed to be able to defend ourselves before we did anything else. So we built warships first and everything else second. This explained everything. While most species focused on exploration and trade when they first reached space, the humans had focused on building a military that could fight wars among the stars. They had spent their first years in space building the largest navy in galactic history. Admiral, I need to ask a difficult question. What are your intentions toward other species, toward the Empire? The human admiral looked surprised. We have no hostile intentions toward anyone. We simply want to be left alone to develop our civilization. However, we also want to make it very clear that we will not be conquered, enslaved, or forced to do anything we do not choose to do. And if someone tried to force you? Admiral's expression became very serious. Then they would discover why humans spent so much effort building ships like the Leviathan. We are a peaceful species, Admiral Ara, but we are not a helpless one. Ara understood now. The humans were not aggressive, but they had made themselves so powerful that aggression against them would be suicide. I think, Ara said slowly, that I need to send a very different report to High Command than the one I originally planned. I hope your leaders are reasonable people, Admiral said. The galaxy is large enough for everyone. There is no need for conflict between our species. As Admiral returned to her ship, Ara began composing her report. How could she explain to the Empire that they had encountered a species that could destroy them completely? How could she make them understand that the age of dominance was over? She looked out at the massive human ships floating near Jupiter. Each one was a fortress that could probably conquer an entire star system by itself, and there were hundreds more scattered across human space. The Empire would have to choose. They could try to fight these humans and be destroyed, or they could accept that there was a new power in the galaxy. A power that built ships like floating cities and treated the vastness of space like just another ocean to be controlled. Ara began her report with 3 words that no Imperial Admiral had ever written before. Request immediate reinforcements. Supreme Admiral read Admiral Ara's report for the 3rd time. He could not believe what he was reading. Human ships 15 kilometers long, weapons that could vaporize asteroids in seconds. It was impossible. She has been in space too long, he told the War Council. The isolation has affected her mind. No primitive species could have such technology. The other admirals around the crystal table nodded in agreement. High Admiral spoke first. Perhaps the humans have some kind of illusion technology. They made our ship's sensors show false readings. Exactly, said. They are trying to scare us away with fake displays of power. It is clever, but it will not work. War Minister Eth leaned forward. What do you recommend, Supreme Admiral? We send Battle Group Omega, 12 of our finest dreadnoughts under my personal command. We will show these humans what real power looks like. Once they see our full strength, their illusions will become useless. The Council approved the mission immediately. Within days, Battle Group Omega was traveling toward the Sol system, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, confident that he would solve this problem quickly. His 12 ships were the pride of the Imperial Navy. Each one was 3 kilometers long, armed with the most advanced weapons in technology. Together, they could destroy entire fleets of enemy ships. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a message from Admiral Ara's patrol group. Put it through. Admiral Ara appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and worried. "Supreme Admiral, I strongly advise caution. The humans are not what we expected. Their capabilities are far beyond anything we have encountered." Felt annoyed. "Admiral, you have been deceived by clever tricks. We will show these primitives the true power of the Empire." "Sir, please listen to me. I have seen their ships myself. They are not illusions. They are real, and they are more powerful than our entire fleet." "Enough," cut her off. "You will remain in position and observe how real Imperial officers handle this situation." As Battle Group Omega entered the Sol system, was surprised to receive an immediate message from the humans. "Supreme Admiral, this is Admiral Sarah. Welcome to our system. We understand you wish to see more of our capabilities. We are currently conducting a routine fleet exercise in the asteroid belt. You are welcome to observe." Smiled coldly. "Admiral, we are here to discuss your surrender to the Empire. Your games and illusions will not work against Battle Group Omega." "I see there has been a misunderstanding," Admiral replied. "We have no intention of surrendering to anyone. However, you are still welcome to observe our exercises. They should begin in approximately 1 hour." Decided to watch this so-called exercise. It would be amusing to see what tricks the humans tried to use this time. His fleet arrived at the edge of the asteroid belt right on schedule. At first, saw nothing unusual, just asteroids floating in space as they always did. Then the asteroids began to move. "Sir," his sensor officer called out in a confused voice, "the asteroids. They are not asteroids." "What do you mean?" "They are ships, sir. The objects we thought were asteroids are actually human vessels." Stared at the display as hundreds of massive shapes began to separate themselves from the actual asteroids. Each one was larger than his entire flagship. They moved in perfect formation, like a dance of giants. "How many ships?" he asked in a whisper. "I count. This cannot be right. I count over 300 vessels, sir. The largest ones appear to be approximately 20 kilometers in length." 20 kilometers. His flagship was 3 kilometers long and was considered enormous. These human ships were nearly 7 times larger. "Sir," another officer reported, "the humans are beginning their exercise." What happened next broke his understanding of what space warfare could be. The human fleet began moving in formations that should have been impossible for ships so large. They turned and maneuvered as if they were small fighters, not massive dreadnoughts. Then they began target practice. Large asteroids throughout the belt started vanishing, not breaking apart or exploding, vanishing. The human weapons completely destroyed targets the size of small moons without any visible effort. "Sir," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "those weapons. Each shot has more power than our entire battle group firing together." "That is impossible," said, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral's voice came over the radio. "You might be interested in this next demonstration. We are going to show you our fighter deployment." Watched in horror as the largest human ship began launching smaller vessels from its hull. But these fighters were not small. Each one was larger than a cruiser. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "those fighter craft are approximately 1 kilometer long each. They appear to be fully armed warships." Hundreds of these massive fighters swarmed out of the human dreadnoughts. They moved in perfect coordination, performing maneuvers that had never seen before. They were not just fighters. They were cruiser-class warships that could operate independently across multiple star systems. Admiral transmitted, trying to keep his voice steady, "How many ships do you have in total?" "This is our home fleet," she replied casually. "We have 12 fleets of similar size spread across our territory. Each fleet is designed to defend an entire star system independently." 12 fleets, each one with hundreds of ships larger than anything in the Imperial Navy. Realized that his 12 ships were not just outnumbered, they were completely insignificant. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving a priority message from High Command." "Put it through." Emperor or himself appeared on the screen. "Supreme Admiral, what is your situation?" Looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the displays showing the human fleet in absolute shock. How could he explain this to the Emperor? "Your Majesty," he said slowly, "we have discovered that the humans are not a primitive species. They are the most powerful military force we have ever encountered." The Emperor's expression changed from confidence to concern. "Explain." "They have hundreds of warships, each one larger and more powerful than our best dreadnoughts. Their technology is far beyond ours. Your Majesty, we cannot defeat these humans. No one can." For a long moment the Emperor was silent. Then he asked, "What do you recommend?" Looked out at the human fleet still conducting their exercises. Ships the size of cities, moving like dancers, firing weapons that could destroy planets. "I recommend," he said carefully, "that we ask them if they would be interested in an alliance." On the screen, Admiral's voice came through again. "Supreme Admiral, would you like to see our Dreadnought-class vessels? I know they are impressive, but they are currently in for upgrades. However, we could arrange a viewing if you are interested." Closed his eyes. The ships he was watching were not even their best vessels. "Admiral," he transmitted, "perhaps we could discuss terms for a mutual defense agreement between our species." The human admiral sounded pleased. "We would be very interested in such discussions. The galaxy is large enough for everyone to prosper peacefully." As prepared to return to imperial space, he realized that the Empire's age of dominance was over. There was a new power in the galaxy, one that built ships like floating nations and commanded the stars like ancient sea captains commanded the oceans. Emperor or had ruled the Empire for over 200 years. In all that time, he had never personally traveled to meet with a primitive species, but the reports from the Sol system had changed everything. His flagship, the Imperial Majesty, was the most advanced ship ever built by his people. 5 kilometers of pure crystal and metal, armed with weapons that could crack moons. It was accompanied by his personal guard fleet of 20 elite vessels. As they approached Earth, the Emperor tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong. 6 months ago, the humans had been an unknown species with primitive technology. Now his admirals were telling him they were the most powerful force in the galaxy. "Your Majesty," his sensor officer reported, "we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. The humans have ships everywhere." "How many ships?" "Unknown, sir. Our sensors cannot count them all. They appear to have vessels hidden behind every planet and moon." The Emperor looked out at what should have been empty space. Now he could see the faint outlines of enormous human ships, each one larger than his own flagship. They were not hiding. They simply had so many ships that they filled the entire star system. "Your Majesty," came a transmission, "this is Admiral Sarah of the United Earth Space Forces. Welcome to our system. We are honored by your presence." "Admiral," the Emperor replied, "I have come to discuss the future relationship between our peoples." "Of course. However, we have a special treat for your visit. Our ceremonial flagship has just completed its maiden voyage and returned to Earth orbit. Would you like to see humanity's latest achievement?" The Emperor was curious despite himself. If their patrol ships and fleet vessels were already beyond Imperial technology, what could their ceremonial flagship be like? "Very well, show me this ship." "Excellent, she is just emerging from Earth's orbital shipyard now." The Emperor watched his sensors as something massive began moving near Earth. At first, he thought it was a moon leaving orbit. Then he realized it was a ship. "Sir," his sensor officer said in a whisper, "that vessel is 50 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide." 50 kilometers. The human ceremonial flagship was 10 times longer than the Emperor's own ship. It was not just a warship, it was a moving planet. Your Majesty, Admiral's voice continued, allow me to introduce the UES Titan, flagship of the United Earth Space Forces. The Titan slowly turned to face the Imperial fleet. As it moved, the Emperor could see that its surface was covered with cities. Actual cities, with lights and buildings and what appeared to be parks. There were spaceports along its hull where smaller ships could land. Smaller ships that were themselves larger than Imperial cruisers. Admiral, the Emperor said weakly, that ship has cities on it. Yes, Your Majesty. The Titan houses over 2 million people. She is completely self-sufficient and can operate independently for decades. She also serves as our mobile command center and diplomatic vessel. 2 million people. The ship carried more people than lived on many Imperial worlds. Your Majesty, his science officer reported privately, that ship has its own gravitational field. It is massive enough to affect the orbit of nearby objects. Admiral, the Emperor asked, what is the purpose of such a vessel? The Titan represents human philosophy about space travel. We believe that to truly explore and settle the galaxy, we need ships that are not just vehicles but complete civilizations. The Titan can establish new colonies, defend entire star systems, or serve as a mobile capital if necessary. A mobile capital. The humans had built a ship that could serve as the seat of government for an entire civilization. Your Majesty, Admiral continued, if you would like, we can arrange a meeting aboard the Titan. I think you would find it educational. An hour later, the Emperor found himself walking through the corridors of the human flagship. What he saw amazed him. The ship was not just a military vessel. It was a complete world, with museums, schools, shopping areas, and residential districts. Admiral led him to an observation deck that looked out over the ship's internal city. Your Majesty, this represents humanity's approach to the galaxy. We do not just want to visit other worlds. We want to bring our civilization with us wherever we go. How many ships like this do you have? The Emperor asked. The Titan is unique. However, we are planning to build 12 more vessels of this class over the next 50 years. Each one will serve as the flagship for one of our regional fleets. 12 more ships like this one. The Emperor realized that humanity was not just building a navy. They were building floating civilizations that could spread across the galaxy. Admiral, I must ask directly, what are humanity's intentions? Do you plan to expand across the galaxy? We do plan to explore and settle new worlds, she replied honestly. But we have no interest in conquering existing civilizations. The galaxy is vast. There is room for everyone to grow and prosper. And if other species try to stop your expansion? Admiral's expression became serious. Then they will discover why we built ships like the Titan. We are peaceful, Your Majesty, but we will not be stopped by threats or violence. The Emperor understood. Humanity was offering to share the galaxy peacefully, but they were also making it clear that they had the power to take what they wanted if necessary. Admiral, I think it would be beneficial for our species to become allies rather than competitors. We would be honored to form an alliance with the Empire, she replied. We have much we could teach each other. As the Emperor prepared to return to his ship, Admiral mentioned something that shocked him even more. Your Majesty, you might be interested to know that our shipbuilders are already working on designs for the next generation of vessels. They are excited by the challenges of deep space warfare and exploration. Next generation. The humans were already planning to build ships even larger than the Titan. Admiral, how large will these new ships be? The preliminary designs show vessels approximately 100 kilometers in length. They would be mobile star systems, capable of supporting tens of millions of people. 100 kilometers, mobile star systems. The Emperor realized that humanity was thinking on a scale that no other species had ever imagined. 6 months later, the Empire signed the first mutual defense treaty in its history. Instead of demanding tribute from other species, they were now asking for protection from the most powerful navy in galactic history. Throughout the Empire, military academies began teaching human naval doctrine. Young officers studied the principles of independent operations, massive ship construction, and the philosophy of treating space like an ocean to be controlled. The galaxy had entered a new age, an age where humans built ships like floating continents and commanded them like ancient sea captains had commanded their fleets on Earth's oceans. Other species could join this new order peacefully, or they could face the reality that humanity had made themselves masters of space itself. On Earth, in the shipyards orbiting the planet, construction began on humanity's next class of vessels. Ships that would be large enough to carry entire ecosystems, powerful enough to reshape star systems, and advanced enough to push the boundaries of what was possible. The age of small, elegant warships was over. The age of human naval supremacy had begun. And across the galaxy, every species was learning that when humans decided to build something, they built it bigger and better than anyone else had ever imagined possible. The stars belonged to those brave enough to claim them, and humanity had built the ships to make that claim real.